But I also, for interviews, really want to focus in on those people that can give a great perspective of what the appeal was like, what process needed to be gone through. And if they have the added bonus of a perspective of the environmental board process, which is not, it's not identical, but that is very useful to know what worked, what was desirable versus, how we decide, what to suggest to the legislature. And it may not be an either or proposition. And I think I mentioned this before. It might be, these are the best things that we had from this model. These are the best things that we have from this model. And make our recommendations so that the legislature can then take that information and have a truly representative basis upon which to decide what is best for Vermonters. All of the Vermonters who are involved in this process.
So, as your fellow board member, I'm interested in the stakeholder list, just so I can understand, where we may have missed someone or who else we can reach out to. Not everybody needs to be on the stakeholder list, right?
Right.
We will presumably reach out beyond the stakeholder list to get input. But I'm still curious to see it. And then, because we're all doing similar things on I'm interested in each of our approaches to getting to the final product, whether it's a guidance document, a report / study, or a formal rulemaking. And so I have some sense of what Kirsten is leading us down, with what products manufacturers and choose the first one to go. So that's helpful. And I'm curious, not right now, but when you're ready with the outline, what your thoughts are about the process for the appeals, in terms of engaging the stakeholders through what process and surveys, interviews, whatever. Because it will help me when I think about, the two that I'm trying to lead on, and maybe we can have some consistency in our approach. And so the list, the approach, and then finally, we each volunteer to lead on certain things, but I hope that doesn't mean that person is saddled with being the only brain on that item. So I am happy to help and consult that, just like I imagine we all are on the appeal study.
Yep.
Whenever it's appropriate to do that, which probably means after you have it framed out and we have something to talk about.
Yeah, the next thing on my agenda are the two most important things in front of me right now, I think, are, first of all, I've been trying to coordinate with the wood product survey because I want to make sure that I look at that to begin with. And I'm not somebody who's ever created a survey or a stakeholder process. So I am hoping to piggyback on Kirsten and the work that Catherine has done in terms of, developing that survey. Yeah, we have that stakeholder list as well. We want to make sure, as we've talked about before, that we don't exhaust the sources of information that we want to engage. So that's really important, but I totally agree. So I'm like the next domino after Kirsten in terms of getting the folks. I really need help on how do we develop the survey, and then we give it to somebody who makes it all technologically possible to press buttons and
Yeah. So I can help on that. I've done surveys community wide, and so I know how to make them work. Not necessarily with the platform that Kirsten and Forest Parks and Recreation is using, but.
And I had originally offered help with that too, but I'm happy to alleviate that portion and go to you, and it can help more with facilitating stakeholders.
Well, whatever. I mean, just so we're all working together and we can leverage each other's strengths on that front.
No, that'd be great because, that's what is challenging. It's like you have knowledge and expertise in certain areas, but then it's like, okay, whose bailiwick is this? Who can really jump in and help on that piece of it? So that would be terrific.
I've learned a lot about what the state platform has available to undertake surveys and collect the data. So it's something that we have access to. It's not just like an A&R platform.
It's not Google or it's not Survey Monkey.
There's a state
Power
Microsoft.
BI.
What's it called?
Power BI or no?
No, it's through Microsoft.
Okay.
Yeah.
We also have a Survey Monkey account. need access or want access to that.
That's the platform I've used
Yeah.
previously in my work, and it's so commercially
Yep.
right and mature that it's really easy to use. Like, it's designed for anyone to be able to put out a decent survey.
Right.
Yeah,
In any case.
and we want to be able to, make sure it can feed into a spreadsheet and the other way. that we
Nice
need it.
graphs.
Yep.
So that's where I'm at. It's a work in progress
Yeah.
still.
Yeah.
Hopefully I will have, like an outline for our next meeting so that you can really see the structure of how I'm, trying to organize information. And then I'll take volunteers for whatever, the workload.
Yeah.
folks on
I'll
the shoulder.
definitely call you offline to talk a little bit more about that, because, well, yeah, a couple things, but there's a bill in front of the legislature now on housing appeals for municipal, approvals, and it's based on a New Hampshire system that's in place, and I think the purview of this study is beyond just Act 250 a little bit. And so there are some things we could look at, also, New Hampshire wise. But anyways, I'll call
So,
you.
Alex, I'm gonna say, let's put you off on update because you're gonna be presenting
Well,
in Rutland.
can I ask one thing though? I circulated a stakeholder group for the tier
You did?
3 work. Yes,
Mhm.
and,
I didn't see it.
okay, it's on
I'll
the
look at it.
It's on the
I'll look at
website. But Maddie was good enough to get it up there so the public could see it as well.
Okay,
And so what I'm looking for is, even though you haven't seen it, it's okay. What I'm looking for is, any feedback before I reach out to them. So the
Okay.
backstory
oh yeah, I
is,
remember. I
Yeah.
did see-
so yeah, the backstory is that the prior NRB chair, Sabina,
Right,
had already reached out to these potential stakeholders last year because Act 181 said that they were supposed to be convened by January 1st. So she got a bunch of yeses, and pretty much the statutorily required stakeholders are set. But there were a couple others that were suggested that weren't in place. So I'm ready to reach out to all of them and say, hey, we didn't forget about you, and here's our plan. But I wanted to run it by all of you first in case.
so can we look at it this week and,
Yes,
okay,
but yes, that would be fine.
Okay.
That would be fine. I want to reach out to them as soon as possible. So A, they know we didn't forget about them, and B, they understand what the process is, which is, for this one, is to talk to all of you first on the 17th about what 2 or 3 means, and hopefully Billy Coster, who's here today, will, not hopefully, he said he will be there as well.
Yeah.
Because his shop has already worked up some, interim suggestions and,
You're not going to be with us at the next meeting now.
correct.
oh, okay,
So that's why I wanted to get it in front of you now.
I see.
And yes,
Sorry.
I can take your feedback on the stakeholder list, preferably by the end of the week, so I
Okay.
can send something out before I disappear
Great.
into vacation land.
Okay.
But if not, it wouldn't be the end of the world if it happens, so that I can talk to folks, after town meeting.
The one question that I had, which was sort of answered today from the A&R folks, is that Billy is the contact person through in there. So I think that sort of reaffirms the question I had in terms of, he can bring various other members of his team to the table on different things like river corridors and what have you, besides the folks here. So I think having him as sort of a code coordinator is a great lead to be able to assist you in pulling in various members of his team beyond the people that are listed.
Yeah, I had a really good conversation with Billy last week and felt much happier about the tier 3 work, given what he and his team have already started to do and his willingness to meet with us on the 17th. But you'll see in the stakeholder list that while he is sort of the central coordinator for A&R, there are other department division staff that are identified that bring specific skill sets within DEC and Fish and Wildlife and that sort of thing. So I think we have a good initial list, and I'm ready to tell them that they exist and that we have a plan for them. But again, I just wanted to run it by you first.
Okay, so we'll get to that. I will by the end of the week.
Awesome. And on the 17th, you'll hear from Billy and myself about 2 or 3. but you'll also hear about the process and like this whole idea of like surveying and pulling groups together and all of that as well. So we'll be doing some thinking on that between now and then.
You have anything, Sarah, on 1A that you want to?
I think just something to sort of discuss with the group is I'm sort of pursuing parallel tracks. Which the first one is putting some more flesh on the criteria. Some of them are open-ended, and particularly the infrastructure piece. And so there's the sort of checklist, if you would, for the tier 1A. But then similar to that, seeing as that sort of like one of the first ones is the process. And I think that's something that talking with staff, it's great you guys have gotten ahead of some of this and sort of started to think through how we're going to process the various different types of applications that we're going to have coming in, such as the tier 1As, the regional plans. There's a lot behind that in terms of logistics. There's a meeting later this week on mapping too, but the tie-in, because as you saw, I think in Jacob Hemrick's presentation about you had the future land use areas get approved, you had the steps, and then the tiers, and how do you geospatially represent all these things? Where does the information flow to? So really trying to get into the devils in the details of how easy or tough or accessible of an application process we're going to have. And I think the idea is to be also flexible and take a look at, as was discussed, some of the regional plans coming in might not go through like a formal computerized input process first. So some more to come on that. And I think I also want to delve into what staffing looks like behind that application process. Because if you take a look at what was with the downtown process, that was very much with an intake, you guys signed a person. And before you even had to apply, you had somebody there serving an ombudsman, representing you and your interests, taking you in and through the process. Obviously, we have a very different machine here. And so I think that's something that, looking at some of the past models, but being cognizant of the framework that we're operating in. So I'm also open for ideas and suggestions, if somebody wants to shoot me an email or call offline. But that's sort of where I'm at, is trying to push for those two parallel tracks.
Thank you. I invited the EJ, the civil rights and EJ people for next week, so I won't talk about community engagement today. And I think we'll continue to talk about the regional plan application process as we go to the different district offices. So I'll put that off too in the interest of time. We only have 15 minutes left. Is it okay to move on to legislative priorities? So,
I'll just point out
Yeah.
that there was a hand up online while
Oh, there
we were
was.
talking, but,
Is
I
it-
don't know if that is still, it's not up anymore, so I don't know.
is there a question from the, there you go. Go ahead.
Yes, this is Annette Smith. My question was for Alex. Is there a way to contact him to provide some input on the stakeholder group? I appreciate that the list was posted, and I have some suggestions to offer.
Yeah, happy to chat with you on that.
But what's the process for doing that? How does the public
Uh,
contact you?
I don't think we have evolved a formal protocol, so unless other board members or staff tell me that it's inappropriate, you can just call me or email me, and I'm happy to chat.
Okay, so are your emails posted?
Yeah, I believe all of our contact information is on the
There's a contact
website.
us page on the website.
Okay,
And all the
very
board
good.
members are-
I will be in touch. Thank you.
Excellent. And Annette, just know that I will be away for a bit. So if you want to talk to me, best to do it this week.
Got it.
Thank you, Annette. So legislative priorities, Pete and I are gonna be on Capitol Hill, at the Capitol this week. mostly focusing on appropriations, also the open meeting law piece a little bit. We have drafted a memo about keeping the two positions that we would be losing at the end of the month and adding money to the budget for intake of these applications that we're gonna be seeing. So,
Those have been submitted to the committee's jurisdiction.
yeah, so, and I'll be here in person tomorrow and Thursday. So,
So my only comment on that is if you're called on the carpet regarding prioritizing those two asks, my input would be it's the staffing request that is the higher priority item for me
Oh,
as
well,
one board member.
we took away about 34 other lines of legislative fixes that were in the list.
I just mean on the budgetary.
Okay,
ask.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
because if we're asking for funds to have a good intake system for
Right.
regional plans, and we're also asking for funds for continuing staff, that's just my input as one board member. I think the staffing is the more urgent of the two.
Rachel's nodding, so if we can keep Rachel happy, that we're good. So, so legislative priorities, yeah, and then there was one other thing, a little fix, that we got, Allison's, input on, and that was the transfer from NRB to LURB, which wasn't sufficiently clear in the statute. Correct? We included that on our list.
Yeah, I think the additional
Yeah.
technical correction.
Right.
language, yeah.
So that, everything else I felt was more policy oriented. And we decided as a board on day one that we were gonna leave back to the legislature to work out amongst themselves and with the governor's office. So. Do we have any operations updates or actually first questions about legislative issues?
So you're specifically seeking within one committee the changes to the open meeting law?
No. Committee, we are talking with the Senate Natural Resources and with the House Environment about taking that up. We also spoke with the Senate Government Ops, who feel that they are the committee of jurisdiction and so feel that it's, under their purview as well. But we, if the committees from which Act 181 originated and was pursued, if they understand that this may be a problem for us in terms of working together productively, efficiently, we think that's where it should come from.
All right, so it doesn't sound like it's all necessary hands on deck in terms of contacting our legislators or things of that nature yet.
Yeah, I mean, if you have occasion to talk to somebody, I don't think that could hurt
Yeah,
anything.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, just want to be cognizant of chain of command.
Yeah, if there's anything specific that you think might be helpful that you would like us to do, like,
Yeah, I don't think there's a chain of command so much as we don't want different, want to be focused about how we're gonna go about it. So,
So yeah, maybe you can update us at the next meeting, based on your conversations with Senate and House Environment, so
Yeah.
that everybody knows what the ask was
right,
specific to open meeting, and then we can all be advocating for that with the same, collaborating on the same advocacy.
and, maybe we should be sharing these memos that are going out. We submitted a memo for an extension to the forest products deadline. And we submitted a memo regarding the budget today. So maybe we can share that with the board. And if perhaps we should put out another one on the open meeting law piece.
That'd be great. I appreciate seeing it. That way, if somebody contacts
Right,
me
then you
outside
know.
of these meetings,
Yeah.
I can tell them, yep, I
Yeah.
know what Janet and Peter are in front of the committee for. and-
Okay, I'm gonna go over your stakeholder list. I'm gonna write another memo.
All right.
Should have mentioned the PUC amendment.
In
In the
the,
open meeting
yeah.
law piece.
and actually, we're meeting with PUC later this week. And we reached out to the Green Mountain, Care Board as well.
Oh, good.
Yeah, just with folks with parallel structures.
Okay, we have less
Oh.
than 10 minutes left.
On to operations, right?
Yeah. Anything? Operations?
Operation, I can just say really quickly, we did submit the annual report that's out there. You should all have that link. It's up on the legislature's reports website now too. And we're continuing, today is the last day for the application for D7 position, so
Oh.
that's out there for anybody who's listening.
Can you tell us if any applications have come in, or do you not?
We do have applications and there's a healthy group of applicants.
Right.
Right.
Annual report. Never seen one before from this group. Found it very constructive and helpful. Would like to talk about it at a future meeting. No rush.
Okay,
Preferably a meeting I'll be at, so not in the
okay,
next 2
nice,
weeks.
okay, got it.
I think it was good representing the changes that had occurred. However, I think the beginning, when it talked about what we do now, and granted, this is past tense, it was very much focused more on the permitting side of things and not necessarily looking forward. You got to that later in the report, but I think that was just one of those like difficult lines to walk in terms of the scope of where we're going, realizing that was a report for the past year.
I noted that as well, Sarah, but I wasn't gonna point it out in detail. But I thought it was still super informative and, some of the data in it, I think it's both helpful and worth talking about.
Agreed.
We touched on the budget briefly. I think Rachel, you're gonna be with us this week in front of legislature on that. Do you have any thoughts you wanna add before? No?
We need to get our testimony to them so that we can display it in the room
Yeah,
tomorrow morning. We need our presentation to be filed with the Appropriations Committee, House Appropriations Committee. Yeah, just say that, so.
okay. Okay, do we have, any more discussion of appeals enforcement and attorney-client memoranda that we need to address?
We had talked about revisiting one issue briefly. You can do that if you.
Do you
just
feel
looking
like,
at The clock,
do you feel like it's important to do that today?
Probably not looking at the
Okay.
clock. I'm going
Okay.
to if we have time, but I might,
Okay,
yeah.
let's put it off.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more business of any kind?
I will just quickly make a note that in terms of the wood products manufacturing study that's been sort of underway, I do have some information on the randomly selected permittees, the compilation of the specific wood products manufacturing permit holders. So I have some information that as soon as it's in a format that can be made available, I'll make sure that occurs along with this survey. Like there's more, it's just been hard to get it into the correct format. So, I will hopefully have that for you by next week.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
And if there is any other way, I don't care what format it's in, but I feel a little bit held up by this. It's like the survey is out there, people are answering it, and I can't see a copy of it. I think that's a problem. I need to see that. Alex needs to then, it's a little bit frustrating.
Yeah, I get that.
So I don't know if there's a way to like look at it and I'll sit there and type it out, what are the questions? How are we doing? That's all I want to know.
Can we take a dummy, or can we take it as a?
No.
Okay, 'cause
Too many lists.
Yeah, it's, the concern, it's very easy to make an errant survey entry.
Okay.
And even looking at it, sort of the backdoor view, I'm told, I'm not an expert in this particular platform yet, but I'm told it's easy to use the data, even delete the whole survey. So we're just proceeding with great caution. I will again ask Catherine Servideo if she can prioritize getting the Word version updated with the final content. So I apologize.
No.
Yeah,
And
that's
I'm
why
not
we haven't wanted to share it.
Yeah, and it's just, look, it can be bare bones. I'm just trying to get something to be kind of consistent with. The content of that is not that important. I'm just looking more for the format, like, how are you, what questions are you asking? Who are you?
Okay.
What interests do you have?
Yeah.
Are you an applicant? I'm just trying to look for consistency, that's all.
Sure.
So I'm not trying to be a pest about it,
No,
but
not at all.
I feel like, I need some info.
Okay.
So Brooke, just remember that this is not the first study that the NRB, prior NRB has ever done, right? So there are probably resources from past studies that could help you in addition to this one, that Peter might be able to get to you, stakeholder engagement-y sort of thing. You sent us a spreadsheet with a bunch of stakeholders from the prior report, right? And
Yep.
so-
Yeah, and I sent you some of
Yeah, I
those
think,
for,
yeah,
for that. We also, in terms of like getting the questions together, I mean, there's a lot of resources that, if you've got questions, we can help you with those things as well. But we do have the chief performance office as well, like that we can utilize, and we did for the wood products, as you guys know, to like fine tune those questions, make sure you're asking the right questions that will result in survey responses that are accurate, and you can use that data. So.
Yeah, if I can't get the Word version, because I'm now understanding you want to see sort of what the platform looks like, I can even make some screenshots of, so I'll get you something.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah, screenshots, that's
Yeah.
all I'm trying to get, an understanding of
So
the format,
Yeah,
trying to be consistent.
Okay. I will entertain a motion. Adjourn. Anybody would like to?
I will make that motion to adjourn.
Sarah, thank you.
Second,
Alex, thank you. Discussion? No? All those in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye. That was unanimous. No nays and no abstentions. We are adjourned. Thank you for participating, everybody. Mine were next.
Brooke, I pulled up the survey if you wanted to